Safety and Security Committee of RTD will now come to order. We are convened as of 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I'd respectfully ask everyone attending the meeting to please mute yourself unless you are recognized to speak. Thank you all for joining us this fine evening. Please note that committee meetings of the RTD Board of Directors will be held remotely via Zoom and will be audio and video recorded. The meeting recordings along with the unofficial minutes of the meetings will be posted as soon as practicable on the board's website. During today's meeting, we are also providing communication access real-time translation, also known as CART. Anyone who would like to access the service should send an email to the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com and a link will be provided. Additionally, the CART transcript can be automatically translated into Spanish for anybody who desires the Spanish version. A live stream of this meeting is also available via RTD's YouTube page. With that, I would now like to call the roll for the committee members. Vice Chair Julian Bouquet. We do expect him later due to a work conflict. Director Ian Harwick.
I'm here.
Thank you. Director Jamie Lewis.
Here.
Director Paul Rosenthal.
Present.
Director Joyanne Rusha.
Present.
Director Marjorie Sloan.
Here.
And I am Troy Whitmore, Chair, and I am here. So we do have a quorum, 6 of 7 directors on the committee in attendance. For the record, I also see that we have several other board members present tonight, including Chair Davidson and Secretary Guzman, Vice Chair Catlin, Finance Chair Tisdale, and Director Broom. Have I missed any other board members that have joined us? Does not look like it. Thank you all for being here. All right, B, public comment. Now I'd like to open public comment to anyone who would like to address the committee regarding any topic listed in the published meeting agenda for the current and immediately preceding month. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please either raise your virtual hand or press #9 on your phone. During this time, the committee will not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you'd like to be contacted regarding your public comment, please email the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. All right, Mr. Kroll, do we have any raised hands in queue for public comment?
Committee Chair Whitmore, this is Jack Kroll, Executive Manager of the Board Office. At this time, I see one hand raised, and that is from Richard Bamber.
All right, Mr. Bamber, you know the drill. You have 3 minutes to address the committee. Proceed.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for letting me speak, Chair Whitmore. I wanted to talk about the Vision Zero, which is on the agenda tonight. It is an initiative that multiple organizations from the community, stakeholders, people with an interest in safety, having the best transit system we can have worked and put a lot of hours in. So we are very, very keen to see the fruits of the labor and the collaboration end up as a policy that RTD follows and makes things better. So I would urge all directors on the committee tonight to vote to advance the resolution. There is also an amendment I understand has been submitted, and that kind of says, it kind of more pushes for, we would like to see a draft report and a report. I should point out at this stage, some of the language, we are not asking RTD staff to take responsibility for Vision Zero on all the roads. We know RTD doesn't have jurisdiction, but if you are to get to 0 fatalities and injuries, you don't just stay in your own lane. If there is another government agency, for example, DOTI or CDOT, who are failing our riders by not providing safe, accessible infrastructure so transit riders can get to that bus stop, the transit facility or the rail station, RTD needs to be an active part of the community in saying to those organizations, hey, that's not right. We need to improve this. It is not sufficient just to say that's not our responsibility. So in closing, I hope you, all directors on the committee, will vote for the resolution and including the amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bamber. Mr. Kroll, any further raised hands?
Committee Chair Whitmore, at this time, I do not see any additional hands raised.
All right, thank you very much. I do know that we received at least one letter from Greater Denver Transit that you all received on a number of topics for this evening and in the immediate past. Are there other letters to recognize Mr. Kroll?
Committee Chair Whitmore, at this time, I'm not aware of any additional emailed letters for public comment for tonight's meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kroll. All right, item C, information from external entities. We have no external entity reports this evening. We do have, however, two recommended actions under item D. The first action is for the resolution in support of RTD Vision Zero initiatives, and that is for the Board of Directors to adopt the attached resolution supporting RTD specific Vision Zero initiatives. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Sloan.
Do I
Second,
have a
Lewis.
second?
Second, Lewis.
All right, thank you. I heard Directors Sloan as a movement and Lewis as the seconder. All right, as you all know, this item has come forward through the outreach efforts and hard work performed by Directors Guzman, Harwick, and Rusha. And I do want to allow any of the group of three to make a statement or present any further information. And at this time, I believe the plan is that Director Harwick will begin with. Okay, so the floor is yours, Director Harwick. Proceed.
Okay. Yeah, as this has been a labor for quite a while. So here we are. But I really appreciate you, Director Whitmore, putting this on for us tonight. Yeah, so Director Rushanai and Director Guzman, Director Lewis, before he was a director, have all, really put a lot of time and effort into this. Sorry, I'm just reading this. Anyway, given that we've already seen the presentation, we don't really need to, add more to that right now. And we have the presentation that you can view. If you haven't seen it, it's bit.ly/RTD Vision Zero docs. As we shared in June, our Vision Zero group convened 9 times from October 2023 through January 2024. We had almost 40 participants, including riders, subject matter experts, and representatives from transit advocacy organizations like Denver Streets Partnership, Pedestrian Dignity, the Denver Bicycle Lobby, Greater Denver Transit, and the Car Across Disability Coalition, ATU 1001, also participated. Earlier today, we submitted the initial resolution, and then Director Rusha submitted an amendment. The amendment clarifies 2 things. The first is that the GM and CEO and staff will present Vision Zero action plan to the board no later than the end of the second quarter of next year, and that our Vision Zero plan would follow the guidance of the Vision Zero network. Right now, we are not submitting the amendment. We are just submitting the resolution. We want to make sure that the work that we've done and the work in that is in collaboration with staff. And so we're just going to submit this as is, and then we want to make sure that we're just, again, like really getting everybody at the table together to make sure that the amendment that was submitted is on par with where staff is at. So, and that was, sort of a combination of a meeting between a lot of different people at different times over the course of today. So we appreciate that happening. So just go back to my script. Any other language is actually just redundant. Oh, and so anyway, yeah, I'm really excited again to get this across the finish line, or at least right there to handing off one more relay to the last bit here. So again, we're going to negotiate the amendment language, and then we'll submit that to the board at the final meeting later this month. So I think we have a couple comments, but I'll leave that there for right now.
All right, thank you, Director Harwick. As one of the principal creators of this document, I'm going to switch over to Director Ruscia next, followed by Lewis and Rosenthal and Sloan, if that's okay with the committee. All right, go ahead, Director Ruscia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I apologize, I had to zoom in from my phone today. So thank you, Director Harwick, for that lovely recital. So I just want to note, just like on the amendment language, you know, of course, we don't want to submit any tweaks that look to be last minute. There was just, I think, just a little bit of confusion on the final language. And then, you know, when something is published, it's kind of hard to take it back. But, you know, I did speak with GMCO Johnson today, and I think we came to a really good place. And I don't want to speak for her, so I would love for her to, you know, to jump in or, you know, address this just to ensure, you know, that we're on the same page and we're respecting where staff is. And, so, you know, we had really wanted to see like a completed action plan, you know, by next summer, and, you know, got feedback that might be that might, you know, be a little inflexible for staff because we've got a lot on our plate. And of course, being a transit agency, you know, while these, you know, principles are certainly transferable, you know, we'd still be a little bit unique, and we want staff to succeed and we want to respect staff's time as well. And so what we had discussed was, well, maybe next June, you know, then staff would just come back with like a draft, and we would have a discussion, and, you know, we could have dialogue, and if there's feedback or anything that, you know, that we need to do, but at least just have a draft. And it's possible staff will come back earlier, you know, with a completed document, but that was just to give staff the flexibility. And then just the language regarding the Vision Zero network, I think that was, you could kind of infer from the current resolution before you, but we just wanted just to make it clear because, you know, as my colleague Director Guzman would say, clarity is kind. But, you know, I just wanted to put on the record that I'm just really appreciative of like all the work that everyone put into this. And also just, you know, I think our GM CEO must have had a collective, you know, 14 meetings on this, you know, just in the last couple of months. And so I'm just appreciative of that support and that leadership. And then finally, I will just note that if we pass this, then we will be the first transit agency in the country to fully adopt a Vision Zero strategy, which I think is really exciting and demonstrates like the leadership that we have here. And, you know, our unique position in just being a regional, you know, we can do a little bit more, and we have that flexibility. So again, thank you everyone for your participation, and thank you staff for your feedback. I'm excited to hopefully move this forward tonight, and I will, I can't see the screen, so I'm going to turn it back over to the chair. And if you have further questions, Director Harwick would be happy to answer them.
All righty then. Thank you, Director Ruscia. GM CEO Johnson, do you have any statements or thoughts at this point, or do you want to wait till we're done with the board input? It's up to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just share both directors, Harwick and Ruscia are correct. We have engaged. I did have an opportunity to speak with Director Ruscia earlier today, who shared with me her intent to submit amendments. In the interest of full disclosure, as I shared with her, I support the resolution and concept. I have not had an opportunity to go through the amendments. What she spoke of regarding staff's time and things of the like, yes, there are a lot of things on our plate, and we are doing various elements that could be incorporated into the Vision Zero work plan going forward. However, I would like the opportunity to confer with members of my team. And so I am in support of what the committee collectively decides to do going forward, because I do think it's important relative to ensuring that people are using various arterials in a safe manner. And I am a firm believer and supporter that one death is one too many. And having come from areas that actually have a transit first policy and things that alike, there's a myriad of things that we can do that we're already doing here at this agency that could be enveloped into the board's desire to have a Vision Zero plan. So with that, I will yield the floor. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam CEO and GM. Do appreciate those comments. All right, we have several other directors in queue. I will go next to Director Lewis. The floor is yours.
Yes, I wonder if we could pull up the resolution on the screen. The original.
Mr.
Jack?
Cole,
Jack?
can you or one of your staff members do so?
And while he's doing it, I'll explain.
Yeah.
I had concerns with a line that indicated that it appeared that RTD was solely responsibility for the bus stops. And I'd like to maybe do an edit on that. Or an amendment. Let's see. I'm not sure. Let's see. It'd be therefore. Be in the therefore section. Okay. Trying to figure out where it's at. Now, I know it's in there somewhere.
Does it happen to be in section 4?
Okay. Okay. Funding for bus. Here we go. Let's find the sentence. It's a long sentence. In addition to going on with blah, 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 railroads and leverage information evaluating ongoing infrastructure investments similar to the recent installation of the new blank out signs along the railroad system to improve pedestrian and vehicular safety. Starting in 2025, budget documents will specifically identify funding for bus stop, rail crossing, and pedestrian improvements. I have a strong feeling that's obligating future boards to address the bus stop through budget documents only. What I'd like to see is a statement indicating, because we do, just for clarification, we have over 9,000 bus stops. So that is a big undertaking. So what I'd like to see is RTD will work with city and counties throughout the district to create a plan to address bus stop design, construction, and maintenance. And I'm wondering if our directors who created this would be willing to make that change. Because the way it's stated right now, it looks like we're obligating ourselves to take on the task of bus stops. And this is really an issue that has to be sorted out with counties and municipalities.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if I could. I'm on the phone, so I can't. I can't see the whole gallery.
Yeah, go right ahead, Director Rusha, as far as addressing Director Lewis's ideas there on that verbiage change.
Thank you. So thank you for that feedback, Director Lewis. So I don't. The language is not intended to obligate RTD, to care for all of our bus stops, and that was language that had been submitted by staff. So I mean, I would say I'm open to any clarifications. I just and I would definitely commit to making sure that we clarify that at the end of at the regular board meeting, just when we make those other tweaks as well. I could definitely say that on the record. If we need any kind of clarification, since that was what you just stated is definitely not the intent, and I don't want anyone to read that incorrectly.
Correct.
Does that
Well,
does that make
that-
sense? Because I'm not sure how I would amend it. I'm not sure how I would rewrite it on the fly.
Exactly. And I'll send you my suggestion and you can bring up that amendment at the full meeting. But I just wanted to point that out. It sounded like it was pigeonholing RTD to be obligated for bus stops. So thank you.
Understood. You have my commitment. We'll work on that. We'll tweak it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else, Director Lewis?
Not at this time. Thank you.
All right, so it's my understanding you will submit recommended language in that regard. I think that's a valid point, sir, to the board office, and we will work it into an amendment or a set of amendments at the full board meeting on this same matter. So that is the action that I think we heard, and I think that will work with staff as well. All right, next in queue, I have Director Rosenthal. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say how much I appreciate the members, the directors for pulling this together. You know, it's a very detailed report. They put a lot of effort on that and the presentation and the proposed resolution. You know, my sense is it really actually just describes what our TD is already doing, what DRCOG is already doing, City and County of Denver, City of Aurora, and so many other municipalities are already doing. But, you know, as I'm hearing tonight, you know, this process is getting a bit of a muddle, and it's getting a bit chaotic. We're hearing like, well, we should support the resolution, but really not, because there's an amendment tonight, and then there's a possible 2 amendments. I mean, it's you know, we as board members, you know, we are not the legislature. We are not the City and County of Denver. We have rules about, you know, and practices how we follow that some board members, you know, sometimes try to criticize, you know, our general manager and others on her team. Like, you know, we need to make sure that we follow rules. And somehow I feel like tonight we're not. And so I will respectfully not vote for this tonight, not because it's not well-intentioned or not because there's, you know, it's not because of the subject matter, which I said, you know, as I said, we're already doing, and we're doing for good reason. And so is the City County of Denver and DRCOG and, you know, other entities. So I just can't support it tonight because there's just too much going on with this potential resolution. So that's my perspective. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Rosenthal. Director Sloan, the floor is now yours.
Well, thank you, Chair Whitmore. First, I want to say that I truly support the Vision Zero plan for RTD. In fact, at a Jeff Tag meeting, and Jeff Tag stands for Jefferson County Action and Advocacy Transportation Group, which consists of electeds and staff, transportation staff members in Jefferson County. And the county presented that they were working on a Vision Zero plan. And I said, we're discussing one tonight. And the response was, great, a great opportunity to collaborate on this. And I notice in the therefore section, paragraph 2, it specifically calls out collaboration. And I think that is already underway in the metro area, which is a great thing. As far as Director Rosenthal's comment, you know, I understand what he's saying, but I think this is in sufficient shape tonight to move to the full board. So I will be in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sloan. second bite at the apple for Director Lewis.
Yes, ditto what Director Sloan just said about the amount of work that both Ian and Rushka put into this. One comment, I actually have a question, and it's for Deborah Johnson. I'm just curious, how does this Vision Zero mesh with the is it the PFAS that we're going to be talking about later in this agenda? And that kind of talks a lot about safety and safety protocols. How do these two things mesh together, or if they mesh at all? I'm just kind of curious.
Floor is yours, Deborah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Lewis, for the question. I believe you're referencing the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, the PTAS, and recognizing that the PTAS is just that, our agency safety plan. There's many different facets to that. We have, an SMS, a safety management system. There's various things to which we have to adhere. Recognizing that the core business of this agency is delivering transit services that take a high level of care, i.e. Operating mass transit vehicles. Some are on public rights of way, some are on private rights of way. And recognizing the ultimate aspect of it, to the point that was raised earlier, we don't have auspices over those arterials for all intents and purposes, but what we do with that high level of care is train people. We basically have different programs. We're a part of the roadway worker safety program. When we train our bus operators, for instance, we use the 5 keys, the Smith system. So I share that to say at a high level, quite naturally, since we're hearing people that basically are traversing arterials, there needs to be a higher level of care when delivering that. So there is interface. I want to make that clear. Outside of the PTAS, before the PTAS came to fruition with, the federal reauthorization bill, we still were doing a myriad of things, and it calls for collaboration quite naturally. That's why we have we're hoping for transit signal prioritization and preemption and all those different things. So I don't want you to think that this usurps that. It's just collectively that we're better together as we try to create an optimal operating environment. And hence, that's why I referenced earlier, like a transit first priority, as we have multiple municipalities. And if in fact, there were different elements of that incorporated in, which could be in the future, we are there. So I know that was sort of taking us around the mulberry bush, but just wanted to give you high level of how this is all interwoven. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, and thank you, Director Lewis. I see no other raised hands from the committee. Are there any non-committee directors with comments or questions? Don't see any raised hands there. There's Director Catlin, Vice Chair Catlin. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I read through this and actually I shared Director Rosenthal's concerns that we received an amendment at 3 o'clock, or proposed amendment at 3. I was glad to hear from Director Harwick that will not be addressed tonight, but would possibly be addressed at the full board meeting, because I had concerns about the lateness of the submission of this proposed amendment. And there were quite a few changes, and I didn't have a chance to compare them side by side. But I just wanted to make a comment that I found it curious that Greater Denver Transit commented about the proposed amendment prior to any board members seeing that proposed amendment. And I think from a process standpoint, we tried to address that with our board operating guidelines. And as Director Rosenthal suggests, this kind of deviated from those guidelines. So I was glad to see that Director Harwick said that this amendment would be pulled and that we would not be dealing with it at the last minute. So that's not really a question, it's more of an observation. And I'm not on the committee, so take that for what it's worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Catlin. With no other hands raised, I think it is appropriate that we take a vote. The motion was made by Director Sloan, seconded by Director Lewis. We will do a roll call vote. Is Director Bouquet with us yet, Jack? I don't think I see him. Okay. So we have no vote from Director Bouquet. The rest of the roster, Director Harwick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thanks for the suspense there, Director Harwick. Not necessary for everybody else. Okay, Director Lewis.
Yes.
All right, Director Rosenthal,
No, respectfully.
Director Rusha,
Yes.
Director Sloan,
Yes.
and Director Whitmore, myself, I am a yes. So the motion passes 5 yes to 1 no and 1 absent. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for all the hard work from numerous parties in this regard. All right, next action item. The 2025 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, PTAS, for the Board of Directors to approve the 2025 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, PTAS, in accordance with the requirements set forth in 49 CFR Parts 674 and 673 and 4 CCR 723-7, Rule 7345. Is there a motion?
So moved, Sloan.
Second, Rosenthal.
All right, thank you. We have a rightful motion and second. And at this point in time, I'd like to ask our staff member on this topic, the Manager of Safety Management Systems, Sky Mott, and he's also in charge of Safety and Environmental Compliance. He's got a long job title, Sky Mott. So anyway, Sky, the floor is yours for a summary of the PTAS, as we had a very good presentation from Sky last month. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Whitmore, and good evening, everyone. Like he said, I'm Skylar Mott, the Manager of Safety Management Systems Program Development, and I'm here to recommend the board's approval for the 2025 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan in accordance with those regulations, 49 CFR 673, which is the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, and 49 CFR 674, which is what is in part for the SSO, or the State Safety Oversight Authority, which is a Colorado Public Utilities Commission. So at last month's Operations and Safety and Security Committee meeting, I provided a comprehensive update on the key changes in the 2025 PTAS update. Tonight, I will briefly recap the most significant updates, as if you have any questions, you may ask them. So the first update is the Joint Labor and Management Safety Committee and the GM CEO approval prior to the Board of Directors review and approval of the 2025 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. So that was a major update since last time. The other one is the introduction of a 3-year rolling average in safety performance targets as reported by the National Transit Safety Database in compliance with the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, as well as the National Safety Plan. And then lastly, the big update is incorporating the risk reduction program and the risk-based inspection requirements in line with 49 CFR 673 and 4 CCR 723-7. These updates not only ensure compliance, but also overall strengthen our safety performance at the agency. Lastly, since our last meeting, I'd like to provide an update on where we are with the 2025 Agency Safety Plan as far as approval. As I mentioned in that first update item, the approval by the GM CEO occurred earlier this month, or actually earlier last month. And then following that, it was endorsed by the Joint Labor and Management Safety Committee co-chairs, which is Jillian Gutierrez, the Vice President of the ATU 1001, and myself. Other than that, I will thank you for the opportunity to speak and give you guys the update on where we were with the agency safety plan, and I will yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mott. Appreciate the presentation last month and the update tonight. I do see for the record that Vice Chair Geisinger has joined our meeting as well. So at this point, any questions for Mr. Mott or Ms. Johnson? I see Director Rusha in queue. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I have two. So on packet page 55, where it discusses the board of directors and executive leadership, I wanted to note just that the language currently states that the GMCO has full charge of the acquisition, construction, maintenance, and operations, and so forth and so on. But our current delegation authority has some limitations. And I just kind of wanted to put that out there. And then I was also just in looking at this section, I was thinking, our GMCO is, primarily responsible for safety, and she's also our accountable executive, but the board of directors also, legally and ethically, we also have some responsibility as well. And so I would have kind of liked to see like that just kind of better reflected in the first paragraph. And then it is noted elsewhere in the PTASP, and I don't remember what page it was, but just that, the board of directors gets a report that includes, risk reduction program and performance targets. I understand this. We have a 700 plus page packet tonight. So, and we got this on Friday. So it kind of is what it is, but I just wanted to make just a general comment. But the part that actually I have a concern about, and I would love for staff to address, is on packet page 61, where it talks about annual updates, revisions, and changes. So if you go to the second paragraph, it's just a line, and it says the CSO, Senior Manager of Safety, has the responsibility and authority to review, revise, and update the PTASP. I felt like if there weren't to be an update to the PTASP, outside of the normal annual one, that would also have to go through the JLMSC. And so I was wondering if staff could just speak to that, if that was an oversight or what the rationale is behind that.
GM CEO, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Director Ruscia, thank you for your comments. And quite naturally, as it relates to your earlier statements, and I'll get to the latter part about updates to the PTAS, wanted just to qualify. As relates to being the accountable executive, we are adhering to language put forward by the Federal Transit Administration. We do recognize that there is a delegation of authority, hence that's why we do bring things forward to this body, but we are complying with what the requirements are for all intents and purposes for the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. With that as a backdrop and with the modifications that have been made, that statement is one in a general sense. Quite naturally, if in fact we were making changes, once again, we would have to go through the same processes, i.e. I, as the accountable executive, need to sign off. It would go to the Joint Labor Management Safety Committee. Generally, it's worked through the Joint Labor Management Safety Committee. So we're all aligned on what we are doing collectively for the betterment of our safety management safety systems here at the agency. And then in turn, that would come back to the board. So there's no way we could submit this to the State Safety Oversight Agency, which would be the Colorado Public Utilities Commission, without going through those steps. Mr. Mott, did you have anything further to add to what I outlined?
No, you were correct.
All right. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Further questions or clarifications, Director Ruscia?
Yeah, and I apologize because I wasn't looking at the closed captioning fast enough. So did I understand it that if there are any interim changes, it would go before, it would follow the same process as the annual process? Or because my concern was just that it says that the CSO, Senior Manager of Safety, has a responsibility and authority to review, revise, and update the PTAS. So I took that as outside of the normal annual process.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Proceed, please.
Yes, Director Rusha, you are correct. We would adhere to the same process. For all intents and purposes, recognizing this is safety related, we do call out the chief safety officer in that regard, but that does not negate the fact that we still have to adhere to the process that's been established by the regulation.
Thank you. And I apologize if I was speaking out of turn, Mr. Chair, because I can't see the gallery, but thank you for that clarification. And I will be a yes this evening. And I read the packet tonight. But those, I also just recognize how much work goes into this. So appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to explain those 2 points to me.
All right, thank you, Director Rusha. I see no other hands raised. So we do have a proper motion and second from Sloan and Rosenthal. With that, are there any no votes on this item? Seeing no votes, the item PTAS for 2025 passes unanimously. Thank you, Skylar Mott and Deborah, for your input and the hard work on this very important matter. All right, let's move now to F, discussion items. We'll move to the one discussion item that we have, which is the January 2025 service change recommendations. This time, I'd like to introduce Fred Worthern, Assistant General Manager, Bus Ops, and Jesse Carter, Senior Manager, Service Development, to present the item. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Fred Worthern, Assistant General Manager of Bus Operations, not Bus Stop, sir. Sorry. I'd like to provide you an update for the January 2025 service change recommendations. As is customary, staff presents 3 service change recommendations over the course of a year's time for discussion and subsequent recommendations in alignment with the collective bargaining agreement with Amalgamated Transit Unit Locals 1001 for frontline operator worker selection. While staffing levels have been the primary challenge to increasing service levels and to efforts to implement the comprehensive operational analysis, which you will start to hear the term comprehensive operational analysis in lieu of the system optimization plan that has been historically used. That is more of a general terminology used within the transit industry. So although we will continue to refer to SOP tonight, in the future, you will hear the term comprehensive operational analysis. So the combined efforts of Operations and Human Resources Department have resulted in operator class sizes and new operator starts that we believe can support growth within the system. Considering the current staffing levels and anticipated attrition, the January 2025 service change recommendations were designed with careful consideration towards improving system and performance and the implementation of the comprehensive operational analysis based upon projected available people power. Provided in your board packet is a summary of recommended service changes containing recommendations for service improvements, restoration of service and service realignments contained within the comprehensive operational plan. 3 public hearings along with enhanced operational effort, which includes a customer survey and in-person presentations within stakeholder and community events, are also planned to begin in early October, will be concluded the first week of November. At this point, I'd like to invite Jesse Carter, RTD Senior Manager of Service Development, to join me with further details regarding the service change. Mr. Carter?
Thank you, Mr. Worthern. This is Jesse Carter. Good evening to the Board of Directors. I'm the Senior Manager of Service Development. As AGM Worthern stated, the January service change recommendation contains several COA, that's Comprehensive Operations Analysis, items, and some of the more notable changes, and I'll be brief on these, include increases to service spans like on routes 24 and 73, increases to service frequency on route 49, 105, and AB, and the reinstatement of service segments, one that's not been served since 2020 on the route 35. That concludes the bus notable changes. On the rail side, we have also planned the reinstatement of the service on the E and H lines to 15-minute service frequencies. That said, I'll turn it back to you, Fred.
Thank you, Mr. Carter, and thank you, Chair Whitmore. At this point, we are happy to answer any questions you or other committee members may have.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. And just to clarify on my introduction, I inadvertently abbreviated operations to ops. It did not mean, I did not mean for it to come out as bus stops, because I know that would probably turn some of that beautiful black hair to the color of mine, Mr. Worthing. So my apologies.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I could not help but give you a little bit of a hard time on that. I know.
We all need to enunciate better, and boy, I'm in need of that. So speaking of somebody who can enunciate, let's move to Marjorie Sloan, because she is in queue and the floor is hers.
Well, thank you again, Chair Whitmore. I would like to again refer to the Jeff Tag meeting. Director Catlin and Lee Cryer were also there. And we were very happy to present the bus changes to Jefferson County, because there were several that will really help with bus operations in Jefferson County. So I would like to thank and congratulate staff with coming up with the plan. And the rerouting, which you didn't mention, is also going to be very beneficial for Jefferson County. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, very, very nice comments. Thank you, Director Sloan. I don't see any other committee members with their hands raised, but I see a couple other directors. Let's move over to Director Tisdale. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just have a brief comment. Thank you for restoring or expanding to previous experience Route 24 on University Boulevard. I know that will be greatly appreciated by a lot of people, and we're going to continue to work to try to get vital service on University Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tisdale. All right, Director Secretary Guzman, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Worthen or Mr. Carter, this one's for you. Can you speak about the 1E/44 and what's going on with that particular route? I think it's really important. In my district, Elyria and Swansea and Globeville have had an unfortunate history of being left out of public transit since the A line was constructed. But I see the changes happening and I'm excited by this, but I want to understand it a little bit better because it looks like it's splitting that route. I just don't understand how it's working. Thank you.
Mr. Carter.
Sure, if I may. Thank you, Chair. Director Guzman. So you are bringing up something that is somewhat complex, and this was a part of the COA that was put together as part of Reimagine RTD. So if you were to imagine the Route 44 as a crosstown route going from East Denver to West Denver going through downtown, and if you were to imagine the Route 1 coming from South Santa Fe and actually the Lakewood area all the way into the downtown area and through the Santa Fe Art District. What we're doing is we're breaking the 44 to operate primarily west between downtown 17th and 18th Streets, all the way to its western terminal. And then with the Route 1, it will operate Lakewood to downtown. However, the segments that are, I hate to characterize it as being weaker, but they have weaker ridership levels on the eastern part of the 44. We're combining that with the eastern portion of the Route 1. So those services would remain with their current levels of service for the moment. Later, as resources become more available, we'll be bringing all those services up to a 30-minute all-day service. But at this point in time, we don't have the resources to do that. So they'll remain at their current service levels, with the 44 having 30-minute peak frequency, 60-minute midday frequency, and the Route 1 operating hourly as it does today. And the new route, the 1E/44, which we're probably looking for a better name at some point, will operate on an hourly basis as well. Something also to note is that the Route 1E will be in a different service category than the Connect services on the Route 44 and Route 1. They'll be a part of their community services. So with that, that kind of outlines what the change is. Do you have any further questions, Director Guzman?
Maybe we can speak offline. I just would like to really dig in and understand this. I do want to applaud that though, because this 1E/44 route that you are discussing runs right through an area of town, Rhino, that has blown up in transit-oriented development potential with, I don't even know. I lost count of how many new housing units came online in the last 3 to 6 months, and there's still more slated. So I think that this was a great opportunity, and I'm really proud that you jumped on this and put this route together to serve that part of town. But I'd just like to follow up because I do have a meeting with GES folks, and I'd like to be able to speak to them about this with great detail. So thank you for answering the question to this point. Appreciate it. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Guzman. Thank you, excuse me, Mr. Carter, for that explanation. All right, I see Director Lewis has his hand raised. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was pretty hard on staff at our last run board, but I really have to say I'm excited about this run board. And I think there's a lot of good nuggets in there for us to tout. One question, though, if this is passed, how are we going to market? How are we going to let people know that these are back? I can't tell you how many times I've talked to somebody maybe a month after something's been implemented and they have no idea. So I'd really like to make sure our marketing department is putting signs up and other things at these stops to let people know that these changes are happening. So thank you.
And thank you for your comments. I do appreciate that. All right, I see Vice Chair Geisinger in queue. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Worthen and all the team. I know Jesse's team's been working hard on this, and it's really great to see this service coming back. My first thought is along the line of Director Lewis, which is this is great news, and I know our team will be getting it out, but I'm wondering if you can, and I'm not expecting you to have these necessarily tonight, but if we could sort of aggregate and say, how many routes came back in this return of service, how many got increased frequency, how many got longer hours, some of those things to really let people know, what we're getting done. I'd also be interested to know what percent of the SOP COA we are achieving now that we're bringing back this service. I think it's great news that we're having such success lowering our vacancies, and it looks to me like we've lowered them a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else we can do, but I think this is a great start. I have a couple of comments on specifics. One was somebody was asking me today about the 24, and I know that there's University and Cherry Creek and Director Tisdale mentioned it. At this point, it's still going to stay 60-minute intervals, but it's going to be adding a lot of service into, looks like, till midnight during the week. Is that right?
That's correct. And the Route 24, I should have stated this before, the Route 24 in the COA is actually broken into two components. There's a 24 in, 24 north, and a 24 south, and there'll be dissimilar headways between those two services. Added to your board packet was some supplementary information defining the routes as they were adopted by the board of directors, and the 24 is likely not in that group. So what I'll do is provide that to the board of directors, because what we're doing right now is more related to just the span of service and not to the change in the actual alignment and the additional service frequency. So that would come later as resources become more available. That is a pretty sizable change. There's even more to come on the 24 University line, which will cost probably the equivalent of 6 full-time employees.
Great. And I see lots of other hands, so maybe I'll just wait.
Okay, so if GM CEO Johnson would like to introduce the first part of Vice Chair Geisinger's question and Fred to follow.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Whitmore, and thank you, second Vice Chair Geisinger, Committee Chair Whitmore. But just wanted to qualify in, what am I trying to say here? In August, we introduced a method by which we were showcasing exactly what you outlined, second Vice Chair Geisinger, in which we were showcasing the additions and subtractions relative to service going forward to help the layperson better garner an understanding of the enhancements. We created a dedicated web page, and we're doing much more than that in reference to introducing the concept of our service modifications, not just in a piecemeal fashion, but looking at them more holistically. I would like to call on Stuart Summers, who can speak more in depth about our undertaking, just to ensure that everybody has an understanding about our established framework that we're now leveraging that was introduced in August. Mr. Summers, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, GM CEO Johnson. As introduced, I'm Stuart Summers, Chief Communications and Engagement Officer. I think many people are aware that we introduced a robust outreach and engagement strategy around our service changes. We introduced that as part of the May service changes. We've been operating under that now 2 cycles. It involves dispatching staff out to impacted stops and stations to directly engage with customers, providing more virtual opportunities for members of the community to engage with Jesse Carter's staff, and then as well as enhanced media relations strategy, obviously trying to bolster our earned media. In the question earlier that was raised about marketing, we do 2 different types of marketing strategies, one around the proposed and then one around the final changes. And so right now we have a marketing campaign that is underway, sharing information about these proposed service changes ahead of January, inviting customers and community to provide feedback. And then once action is taken by the board, we roll out a second and separate campaign where we then promote heavily the changes that are happening, and we use a number of digital, out-of-home, on-vehicle advertisements, events, outreach. And so we really want to make sure that we are targeting customers in the different parts of the metro area related to the changes that would likely impact them.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Sorry, proceed.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Stuart. That's really helpful. Do you have, can you tell the public right now, or does somebody, when I think there are 3 public meetings scheduled, and also is there a digital form people can go to? I'm not sure if that's you or if somebody else has it.
He looks like he's working very hard to pull it up on his computer.
So
Okay.
I can answer the question with
Go
regard
ahead.
to the public
Go ahead,
hearing.
Mr. Worthen.
So Monday, October 21st at noon, there'll be a virtual session via Microsoft Teams. Monday, October 21st at 5:30, there'll be an in-person at the Blake Administration Building at 1660 Blake Street in Denver. And Tuesday, October 22nd, 5:30 to 6:30, there'll be virtual drop-in sessions held via Zoom.
All right, thank you, Mr. Worthen. I
And
see.
if I can just share that
Oh, go ahead.
information that he just read is on package page 718 as well for everybody's edification.
Yes.
Great. I knew it was there. Just wanted to get it out so people could hear it if they're listening tonight. So that's great. And finally, thank you for the AB bus. It's been standing room only in many buses for a while, and so it's coming back. I can't tell from the materials in the packet, but I think I know it's going to be interweaving with the AB2, so it's 30-minute headways, I think from 1 to 8, and plus it got longer hours. Is that right?
Right, Director Geisinger, and the way the AB2, it's a modified AB2, so it doesn't go to the Junction Depot Square station, but it does run along 28th Avenue, which was really what we're definitely trying to attempt to do with providing service along 28th. There's been a lot of requests for those stops as they go fairly close to the school. So yes, it is interspersed between AB 1 and AB 2.
Thank you. My hope well, my hope is that we can continue to look at what it would take to have at least bus stopping on the street at Boulder Junction. It's an important TOD and beautiful TOD facility where they tax themselves for eco passes. So I look forward to working with you more on this, but thanks for all the work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Second Vice Chair. Mr. Worthen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Not to belabor things, but first and foremost, Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing me to give you a little hard time with my twisted sense of humor. But above and beyond that, although we are not presenting a People Power quarterly update this month due to the timing, I do want to acknowledge that the Human Resources Department has worked jointly with a lot of our departments to make significant inroads in our head count. And I really want to acknowledge the work of Charlene Pelleggi, our Chief People Officer, and those in our Human Resources Department. Without their help, even though we've had a good vision for our service going forward, we would still be in a deficit with People Power. So I just want to say thank you to them. And thank you to the rest of the board too for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Worthen. That's a good mention. Without people, we don't move people. So kudos to Charlene and our HR department. Okay, I see no further hands raised. Good presentation. Look forward to hearing the good news as it's spread throughout our service territory. So appreciate that immensely. So let's move to item G, other matters. Are there any other matters that a board committee member would like to bring up at this time? Director Lewis.
Yes, I'm having an issue with the contract change with Greyhound. I have shared my concerns with the board of the directors through the staff office because of the discontinuation of the contract with Greyhound. And I'd like to know if there is a desire of this board to visit this issue as a discussion item at our next ops meeting.
Well, if there is enough interest from other members of the committee, we certainly can endeavor to do that. Is there any input from other board members or members of staff? Director Ruscia.
I just wanted to say that I would be interested in having that conversation. I also think it would be good for the public benefit as well, given the decision. And I actually, I don't know if anyone else has their hand up in the queue, but I had a question about, I had a question related to the Greyhound issue, if it would be appropriate to raise it now. It might be for council. If
Go ahead,
okay.
proceed. We have one other hand up, and Director Lewis's hand is up as well. I don't know if he has follow up or not, but go ahead with your question, Director Ruscia.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Chair. So I just, when we received this decision, or when we were notified of this decision, I think a few other members had thought this might be outside the delegation of authority. And then, we were informed of a 2015 resolution that firmly put this under our GM CEO's delegation of authority. And so that was new for me, and I read it and concurred. But I just wanted to add, when we think about training, just generally anything related to delegation of authority, we might want to put that in just, one packet for incoming board members. Does that make sense? Because there are other resolutions that might relate. And then to that end, I was wondering, and not being in the real estate business and not being here when this was passed in 2015, would that also affect something does that also mean that anything, less than 7 years duration, would that potentially impact decisions related to Amtrak or CDOT, like Bustang, or do those decisions come before the board?
General Counsel Snyder, if you'd like to opine on those questions, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Melanie Snyder, General Counsel. So for everyone else's reference point, what Director Rusha is talking about is there was a board resolution in 2015 that has to do with real property. So both lease and sales of real property interests. And that is the delegation that governs the general manager's authority with respect to the Greyhound license agreement. And Director Rusha, I think that's a great notation. I'll make sure that I add that as part of the training for the onboarding. And, you know, it's always hard to train on every single resolution that the board has adopted, but the point's well taken with respect to the delegation of authority. I think I would have to have a little bit more, it might be more helpful to kind of follow up separately on the specific questions about what are the parameters of what that delegation does cover. But I'm happy to send that out to the whole board so that you have that as a point of reference. And then Director Rusha, I'm happy to follow up with you offline about your specific questions about what would be in or outside of scope.
Okay, Director Rusha, anything further before I move on?
No, just thank you, General Counsel Snyder, and I appreciate that feedback, and we'll follow up offline.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. I see Director Catlin in queue as well as Guzman, and I think Director Lewis has another point, so I haven't forgot about you, Director Lewis. Floor is yours, Director Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a little bit of history with the Greyhound issue, and I believe Director Tisdale does as well. Back in 2018 or 2019, when the board was informed and we had a considerable discussion about permitting Greyhound usage at Denver Union Station. And there was quite a bit of discussion, even though the delegation of authority remained with the GM CEO. So I think what happened this go around is that we did not have the benefit of that discussion publicly. That said, going back even further, I was involved in the initial planning, master planning with Denver Union Station as a part of the original team and then Denver Union Station Project Authority. And it was contemplated at that time that there would be opportunity for Greyhound to utilize the facility at Denver Union Station. So that was part of the overall vision for the development of Denver Union Station, as well as the Bustang. At the time, it wasn't Bustang, it was called Intercity Bus Routes, and it was planned that there would be 2 bays available for that. So I think when you look at the long-term history of the multimodal Denver Union Station use, that was always contemplated for that. And I think that regardless of the delegation of authority, which I respect, I think that this board could benefit from a public dialogue about it. That's just my perspective and my opinion. I don't know if Director Tisdale would recollects anything differently, but just wanted to shed some light on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Catlin. With that vein of thought in mind, I'm going to jump over to Director Tisdale to continue that conversation. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, my memory comports with that of the Vice Chair. And I do appreciate the fact that we did originally back in, and I think it was 2018 when we had the Greyhound discussion. It was brought before the board, and when we had the change, I expressed some concern about the fact that we hadn't had the benefit of that in advance, which I think would have been a positive outreach to the public to demonstrate how these concerns came about. I thought the decision by the general manager CEO was more than justified from the information that she presented to us, but it was a question of process that I think perhaps some people might have felt some disquiet over. The important point that I would like to emphasize from Director Catlin's remark is, yes, Union Station is a multimodal hub, And to the extent that we can look into the future to see how this can be addressed and expand the modalities, I think that would be great. And regarding the 2015 delegation of authority relative to real property, recall at all times, it is the board's decision on what is delegated and what is not. And if we have concerns and if they arise, we should address them as appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Tisdale. All right, I will go to Secretary Guzman, who's next in queue.
Director Sloan is part of the committee. I can certainly wait.
Director Sloan, what is your preference?
I have no preference, and Director Guzman was faster with his raised hand, so I'm
All right,
happy
we'll go.
with this going ahead.
We'll go with expediency then. The floor is yours, Secretary Guzman.
I am the director for District C, in which Union Station resides. I'm gonna ask that we do have a conversation about this. I think it is necessary at this point. I do want to say the concerns that were raised and explained to us, I have seen and understood. I have heard about from constituents living in and around the Union Station area. I am also concerned about the perceived unsafety of the Union Station Wayzata Pavilion, which is frankly to me old news and not real anymore. We have done so much work in the pavilion, so much work in the Union Station itself, collaborated. The directors went and visited everything that was going on during the reconstruction of the Great Hall and the efforts that were done there by Sage Hospitality Group, who is our current lessee. And the work has turned out very well. I've expressed a number of concerns over that property and keeping my eye very close to it because I'm through there today 5 times after I left work before I got home for this meeting. It is quite safe. It is a public area. It is also something that we do need to worry about as we hold the lease and we have operations running through there. With respect to decisions that are made, I am inclined to say I would prefer a decision be made, and then we can discuss whether that was the right decision or not after the fact. On this one, though, I would like to understand more behind the why the decision was made. And if there's any other additional information that we need to be concerned with. Losing Greyhound from that particular part of town might be difficult. I don't know where they would house themselves since the old Greyhound buildings do not exist anymore. And the intention of Union Station, as previously stated by the other directors, still stands. So maybe we can have a dialogue about that going forward. But since that is directly in my district and the crown of RTD, I want to make sure that we address it somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Guzman. Proceed, Director Sloan.
Thank you. I appreciate Director Ruscha for raising this, and I was informed by Director Catlin and Director Tisdale about the past history of this, and I really appreciate it. I believe an after the fact autopsy may be helpful, but the better procedure on an issue of this magnitude and Union Station is the crown jewel of the entire RTD district that neither the public or the board should first hear about it on the media. So, I think a discussion would be helpful, but it's too bad it's after the fact. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Sloan. Madam CEO and GM, I think I'll move to Director Lewis, and then you can summarize from all of the comments, if that's okay. All right, Director Lewis, proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's your call, but what we may want to do is a straw poll. There might be other directors that may not want to comment on this, but would like a discussion. So just a suggestion.
All right, I will take that under advisement after we hear from CEO GM Johnson. So floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your comments. I just wanted to clarify some statements that were made that I don't find to be completely accurate. It was stated that the board heard about this decision after the media. I apprised the board, be it not in a public session, but via a board memoranda. I provided that to this body well in advance, probably about a month in advance. Was working with the city and county of Denver as well. And I do want to clarify that the contract sunsets, and pursuant to the tenets of said contract, that I own this, that I did not want to leverage the option years because of the lack of adherence to the tenets of said contract going forward. So I'm totally amenable to having a discussion. And there's a lot more as we talk about the operability of our transit network. And customarily, when we do bring forward to this body contract where we're looking to exercise an additional option year, the first question always is, what is the level of performance? What is the adherence to said contract? So just want to ensure that it's fully recognized that all those different elements were taken into consideration, which I outlined. But if it's the committee's desire, I welcome the opportunity to have a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I sense that a straw poll is unnecessary at this point, judging by the interest of the committee and non-committee members. So we will plan to put a discussion item in this regard on the next meeting, if not the first one of next year, but as soon as it's practical by staff to be prepared. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your cooperation on that matter. And thank you for all the input, everybody. All right, any other matters? Any other matters? Any clarification on Fred Worthen's job title? All right. Our next meeting is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. And November meeting is shaping up to be a significant one. Obviously, we will be looking at the passage of the January service charge. We have some transit items on the agenda, as well as discussion update related to the facilities and fleet transition plan and the Greyhound bus depot discussion as well. And with that, seeing no further discussion, the meeting is adjourned at 6:48 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you all and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.